Let's jump right in. Today, we're diving into a truly fascinating story called The Last Affordable Road by Nick Sasaki. It's this brilliant reimagining of John Steinbeck's classic, but it translates the harsh economic struggles of the 1930s directly into the crisis of today. We're talking about an era completely dominated by apps, automation, and private equity.
So, the author, Nick Sasaki, poses this profound question that really anchors our entire explainer. What if the moral crisis of displacement happened right now, today? What would that actually look like? We all know that classic, dusty imagery of the Joad family from the Great Depression, right? But if you take those same timeless themes, dignity, survival, family, and drop them straight into 2026, who exactly are the displaced? And more importantly, who's pushing them out?
What we're seeing is a total trade-off. We're swapping out the visceral, physical hardships, greedy banks for closing on family farms and blinding dust storms, for the sterile, totally invisible hardships of the modern world, things like algorithmic decisions, corporate property ownership, and the whole gig economy. Back in the 1930s, the dust literally choked you. In this modern story, it's an automated text message or a deactivated delivery app that just wipes out your livelihood in an absolute instant.
Which brings us to Section 1, Displaced by the Algorithm. Let's follow the fictional Vega family to see exactly how fast the working class can be displaced today. Just think about this rapid downfall playing out over a matter of days. Day 1, Elena Vega finds a notice taped to her door. A private equity firm has bought up their mobile home park and literally doubled the lot rent. Day 3, her husband Rafael, who has worked the fields for 37 years, has his hours completely slashed because corporate brought in an automated harvester. By day 6, their son Mateo gets permanently locked out of his delivery app with zero explanation, and Elena gets a sterile automated text terminating her caregiving job. And just like that, a family's entire stability is completely erased.
Honestly, when Elena's family loses their livelihoods, the most chilling realization is the complete lack of human interaction. She says, "Nobody hates us." That may be the worst part. And isn't that just haunting? It's not personal at all. It's literally just a corporate portal executing a line of code. There's no greedy banker sitting across the desk to look in the eye. There's just a blank screen flashing suspicious activity or no further shifts available.
Moving on to Section 2, the new Route 66.
So forced to sell all their belongings and move into a sagging 28-year-old RV with their pregnant daughter Sofia, the Vegas are pushed onto the modern equivalent of the open road. But instead of pitching tents on the dusty roadside like Steinbeck's characters did, today's displaced workers find themselves in paved church lots. Survival today is strictly governed by 2-hour limits at rest stops and security guards with flashlights tapping on your window if they even suspect you're sleeping in your vehicle. The Vegas eventually end up in a safe parking lot. It's basically this heavily regulated asphalt grid where working people sleep in their cars before heading off to their actual jobs the next morning.
Section 3, the invisible villain.
This brings us to a huge point in our explainer. In an economic system run entirely by distant algorithms and faceless corporate boards, is there still a villain when no single person is directly responsible for your suffering? We see this invisible system perfectly when Mateo tries to appeal his gig app suspension. The guy drove over 4,000 successful deliveries, but one single glitch or customer complaint gets him permanently banned. When he tries to fight it, he's met with a final, unappealable decision from an unnamed, automated reviewer. It's a completely closed loop. There's literally no human being to argue with.
There's this incredible quote from Mullock, a former trucker the family meets who's living in his van because of crushing medical debt. He tells Mateo, "A system stays safe when every person thinks he failed alone." I really want you to let that sink in for a second. That perfectly captures how algorithmic management isolates us. By stripping away human managers and hiding behind automated rejections, the system deflects all the blame right onto the individual. It keeps people from uniting against the actual structural issues.
Section 4, the moral climax.
Every great story pushes its characters to the absolute brink, right? For the Vegas, the ultimate test happens when they finally secure a one-night motel voucher from a housing coordinator. It's a safe place for Sofia to rest, a hot shower, the whole shebang. But then, Elena gets a desperate call. Her former client, Rosa, is 72 years old and she's been abruptly discharged from her care clinic straight onto the street because her funds ran out. The really terrifying part? The battery light on her oxygen machine is blinking red. If she doesn't get electricity, she dies. This forces the Vegas into a brutal corner. Do they risk their one and only safe night indoors, violating the strict motel rules, to sneak Rosa and her dying machine into their room?
Well, they take the risk, and of course, they get caught. When the manager tries to kick them out, you really see how moral responsibility is completely deferred in modern society. Think about this chain of bureaucracy. The desk clerk can't authorize it. The manager enforces the occupancy rule because he's terrified of losing his job. The housing coordinator who issued the voucher is totally unreachable. And the rigid policy dictating the whole outcome, written by someone hundreds of miles away, every single person just passes the buck.
Right at the absolute peak of this confrontation, Sofia, the pregnant daughter, steps up. She asks, if the room only saves us by teaching us to leave her outside, what exactly is it saving? It's such a poignant question. It cuts right through the sterile policy and challenges the manager, and honestly, all of us watching, to really consider what humanity actually means when our bureaucratic systems completely fail a dying woman.
Which leads us to Section 5, Building the Promised Land.
After losing the motel room, the family doesn't stumble into some mythical promised land like the characters in the 1930s hoped for. Instead, they find a legal vehicle site in Phoenix. But I want you to really think about who their new neighbors are. A substitute teacher living in a minivan, a farm worker, a registered nurse from Nevada, a warehouse worker, a grocery store employee with 2 kids. It becomes shockingly clear that homelessness is absolutely no longer a fringe issue. It is a sprawling, working-class reality. These are the exact people holding up the economy during the day who are forced to sleep in parking lots at night.
But instead of giving in to despair, Elena realizes that this makeshift community, this is the true destination. She describes the camp as a place where people stop waiting for permission to make room. They start sharing what little food they have, fixing each other's cars, helping each other navigate appeals for those gig app suspensions. They refuse to just sit around and wait for corporate permission or some bureaucratic voucher to help one another survive.
Ultimately, Steinbeck's deep questions about dignity, justice, and community, they haven't disappeared at all. They're just wearing a modern mask in 2026. As Nick Sasaki concludes, this kind of story is a mirror held up to every single era. We really have to decide whether success belongs only to those who ruthlessly follow the algorithm, or whether hope actually grows when people flat out refuse to let others stand alone in the dark.
Now, this explainer is really just the structural blueprint. To truly feel the emotional weight of the Vega family's journey, to understand what it's genuinely like to build a broken crib in the dust of a parking lot, you absolutely must read the original story. Go visit imaginarytalks.com/The Last Affordable Road, a modern Grapes of Wrath story. It leaves us with one final undeniable question to chew on. When the systems we built to make life easier end up erasing our humanity, what are you willing to risk to get it back?